Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Ev. And even though I haven't been on YouTube for the past couple months, I have been actively trying to create space for a life that is more synonymous with who I am now. This is a slope on the side of my house that I decided to tackle as one of my personal projects. 1, as a means of getting outside and getting some exercise. 2, increasing my vitamin D levels. But 3, also deciding to be intentional about what grows around me and what I allow in and out of my creative spaces. After having gone through my transformation, I've been trying to figure out what to do with myself lately and discover where the new boundaries are. But because it's been a work in progress, you can count on the content also being a work in progress. I don't know where that ends or begins either. It's always amazed me how many things grow in a garden, whether you plant them or not. As you can see, things are wildly overgrown and out of control. And I don't ever want it to get like this again. But I kind of looked at this slope as something I needed to tackle outside of myself, but also mirroring something that was going on within me. Now that I have the self-awareness of what does and does not need to stay, it's been this process of letting go, pruning, cutting back, establishing new boundaries, and starting over. During this entire process, I knew that all of this needed to go. I just had no idea where to start or the process of how to get rid of it all. The tools that I needed ended up already being in my house, which was wonderful, compliments of my mom. But also, I was happy that someone else had gone through the process before so that I could take what they learned, take what they used, and apply it to my own life. During this uprooting process, I was shocked to find that some of the things that were unintentionally planted had very deep roots. It was a jarring reminder that even if I didn't put it there were still things growing. And now it's my responsibility to work the ground that I've been given, however difficult it might be. During this process, I found myself wanting direction. I wanted someone to come in and tell me what was a weed and what was the flower and how to tell the difference. I wanted somebody to show me what the original plan was so that I could get back to it. I even wanted the previous owners, who left 3 years ago when we moved in, to come back and show me what they had in mind. But as I attempted to detangle the weeds from the flowers, I quickly assumed responsibility for what I liked and did not like, because it wasn't their garden anymore. It was mine. I was shocked to find that some of the lines might have been blurred, that some things that I thought were bad and difficult might have actually been planted on purpose, because that's what works in a slope kind of garden. I was also shocked to find that all of it grew up together. I thought maybe the weeds might have choked out the flowers, or the flowers would have been strong enough to choke out the weeds, take all the nutrients from the soil. But they coexisted, both of them. And while some things I found very intentional and beautiful, other things might not have been as aesthetically pleasing as I would have liked. However, the function and the purpose was much greater than just beauty. Although you see me struggling, this was the flattest part of the garden, so it was easier than to stand on a slope and try and gain my balance. Here, I did not have to find balance, but I did have to pick up a lot of different tools in order to get rid of the things that I deemed not able to stay. In truth, I did want some things to stay. I noticed that certain plants were definitely flowers. However, I figured this was a great opportunity for me to plant something that I wanted and not just maintain something that had already been there. The most difficult part of the garden was at the top of the hill, right before the flattest part. That was where I had to find the most balance and use the most tools because I couldn't stabilize myself. Certain times I had to sit down and just surrender to the process, understanding I wasn't going to be able to stand and cut and prune. But I did have the intention to clear out as much space as I possibly could. Although this process took several days, of which I have the calluses on my fingers and the mosquito bites on my neck to prove it, every time I went back out there, I felt a little bit stronger and more equipped and able to handle a place I had gotten more acclimated to. When it came to uprooting things, I knew I had the strength within me. And when it came to keeping my balance, I knew I had developed stabilizing muscles so that I could hold my ground and make progress at the same time. It was a refreshing feeling on the inside. On the outside, I was definitely sweating. And I found this process tiring, but also extremely rewarding. Being able to look over at another part of the slope and see how much space I had to work with. Space that was mine. Space that I had carved out intentionally to plant something beautiful. When I first started this process, I knew it would be quite arduous. But I applaud myself still for being willing to create space, willing to change, willing to do the work, willing to show up, willing to be consistent, and willing to see how far I can actually get. I've been learning to reward myself for the effort that I put in and not just the achievement at the end. That it is not just about the gains, but definitely about the means. And I've been recalibrating and rewiring how I get from point A to point B, understanding that that is just as important, if not more important, than the actual reward itself. While I did consider myself blessed to have had a lot of the tools that I already needed in-house, there were some roots and some plants and some baby trees that I could not get to on my own. As much as I tried to do it by myself, it was just not going to happen. I am able to surrender to that process as well and reach out to my community and to people that are surrounding me. Because healing and creating space and becoming is never an individual process. Even though it is not my fault that I got hurt, it is my responsibility to heal, to show up as my authentic self. I'm willing to go through this process and change so that I can be a stronger pillar in my community and for the people that know and love me. Understanding that if I got hurt relationally, then there is also healing relationally. I cannot force a corrective emotional experience, but I can create enough space and open myself up to having one. The peace that I have now genuinely surpasses all understanding, and I attribute that to a lot of the healing work that I've been doing. The emotional side of life has been quite arduous to detangle, but I'm happy to have had the space to do the work and to show up now as a more authentic version of myself. Healing is not easy. It is for the brave and ones who can genuinely tune into their inner compass. Mine now is much calmer than it used to be. It is not a scattered, frantic, unsure, destabilized energy. but it's peaceful and grounded, stabilized, strong, and mended. I by no means have it all figured out, but I am more sure of myself than I ever have been before. And having gotten rid of toxic patterns and prickly things out of my heart and out of my garden has helped me show up in that way. There are no more attempts at being. There is just what's left over after all of the weeds are gone. I firmly believe that God is the one who brought the healing. I believe He orchestrated the whole thing, the good and the bad. The Bible says the wheat grows up with the tare, as in the good things and the bad things both exist in the same garden. And according to the slope on the side of my house, I can definitely say that's true. But one of the biggest lessons that I'm taking away from this is that I can decide to do differently. I can be more intentional about what grows around me and more intentional about what doesn't. I believe this life is a co-creative process with the creator of the universe, and that together you can make something beautiful. I might not always understand or agree, but I know that there is a plan for my life, a plan to prosper me. Like all good home improvement projects, this took me much longer than I anticipated, with a lot more effort. But I am proud of myself for getting started and for pacing myself so that I wasn't too overwhelmed during the process. And while it is far from perfect, I do think there is enough space for me to start in the spring, planting flowers that I have in mind and redoing the bricks. This was a difficult thing, but over multiple days, I was able to create the space that I need, moving forward. Now that I have the tools, muscles, skills, boundaries, and space, I can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks for watching. And if this content resonates with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.